Hi, I'm Aaron. In my last video, I talked about what I'd been up to 6 months after leaving my job. And I really focused on all the personal things. Well, in this video, I'm going to focus more on some of the financial things that I've been focused on. Welcome to Real Fi Talk, where we talk about the ups and downs of financial independence, how to achieve it, and how to sustain it. Remember to like and subscribe if you like this type of content. I read all comments. Okay, so one of the first things that I did when I stepped away from my work was fire my financial advisor. And this was a really hard decision. I really liked him. He'd given me good advice over the last couple of years, but I realized that this was also going to be my largest expense, and I wanted to minimize that. I also felt pretty confident managing my own money, and it was time for me to try it on my own. I also decided that if I did need financial guidance, that I'd rather pay for that hourly. So the second thing that I did, because I started panicking right away, was hire that hourly financial advisor. And I picked an expert who really understands portfolio allocation, safe withdrawal rates, and early retirement. Even though I don't really consider myself early retired, I wanted someone who understood my specific use case, someone who wasn't working, who was in their late 40s. The next thing that I did was set up a Google Sheet, and I added a little bit of automation so I could track my portfolio daily. Now, the pro and cons of this was I really have good insight into the assets that I own, how they're performing. The con of it is it's really easy to look at it every day, which I do not recommend. It's pretty unhealthy, actually, because every day that it goes up and you feel really good about yourself, it also can go down, and then you're not going to feel so great. The other thing that I did was put all my information into Bolden. And I think I had bought Bolden maybe 6 months before I stepped away from my work. And Bolden is a really great tool for kind of forecasting out and giving yourself a probability of retirement success. But I found actually, after I updated, I really didn't use it that much, and I still haven't used it over the last 6 months. Now, there is some good value in Bolden. You can do some Roth conversion modeling, but even when I stepped away, I think it gave me a likelihood of success of 88% from a Monte Carlo perspective, which doesn't sound too great. But after talking to my financial advisor, he explained to me that all that really meant was I had an 88% chance of not having to make any changes to my retirement plan if I stopped working permanently, and a 12% chance that I might have to, and I could deal with that. The next thing that I did was I paid off a small car loan and I paid off my mortgage. I had been working on paying down my mortgage for many years, so it wasn't a big number, but I did take money out of my investments to pay it off. And I know a lot of people will probably say I'm crazy since I think it was at a 3.5% interest rate, but I just wanted the peace of mind of not carrying a mortgage into this new time where I wasn't going to have a job. The next thing that I did was I opened my Google Tracker spreadsheet back up and made sure that what I had budgeted in the spreadsheet matched to the budget that I had in Monarch. And Monarch is another great tool that I use, and I use it more than Bolden to track all my expenses. And I highly recommend it to anyone looking for a good budgeting tool. Monarch allows you to connect all your accounts, and it auto feeds through so you can see literally where every dollar is going. It's a great tool. I'll have a separate video on Monarch on how I use it because I have created some customizations and I use it in a particular way that works for me. The next thing that I did was switch accountants, and I put this off probably too late. In fact, I don't think I identified the new accountant until late December, which was kind of too late. And the reason I had to switch accountants was I used to have an accountant assigned to me through my old financial advisor, but because I wasn't paying the 1% AUM fees anymore, I didn't have access to that accountant. So now I have an accountant that I can pay out of pocket, but I believe she's pretty affordable, and we'll see how it goes after the next year. The other thing that I did in January, so quite recently, was open up a health savings account or an HSA through Fidelity. And this account is going to be great for paying off any deductibles or co-pays that I'm going to incur with my new bronze high deductible healthcare plan. I've never had one before, so I'm curious to see how this goes. I went ahead and funded it fully though for 2026. The other thing that I did in January was make a last Q4 tax payment, which I had not done in 2025. And I wasn't aware you could do this, but you had up until I believe January 15th to make any Q4 tax payments. Now, this wasn't in my budget for 2026. So I think for my January Monarch budget, I'm going to be way over, but that's okay. I'll figure it out in lesson learned for next year. The other thing that I did, and it's something that I've been focused on really over the last 6 months, is identify what I'm going to do with healthcare. And what I decided to do for 2026 is to keep my COBRA for vision and dental, and then go to the ACA for my actual medical care. This is a big decision, and I must have called multiple insurance companies and multiple doctors to try to find out who covered what. And these insurance plans cover different specialists, primary care providers, there's different hospitals. So you really have to do your research. But I think I have a good plan, and I'll give an update on that later that I'll be turning on in March. Okay, so that's really high level where I spent the last 6 months in terms of financial decisions. And I'll tell you, it hasn't been easy. The stock market's been up and down. I doubt myself sometimes on my allocation. I'm always questioning whether or not I'm making the right decision on healthcare, but I'm going to go with it, see how it goes. And 2026, here I come. Thanks again for watching. Remember to like and subscribe if you like this type of content. I'll watch for your comments.